On today's show, the New York Knicks got a much-needed win thanks to Josh Hart's clutch buckets and the budding Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson two-man game. We're going to break down that game and talk about the Knicks. We're also going to talk about Joel Embiid's injury, and Legs made a list of players that he thinks can swing the playoffs this year. All that and more on today's All-NBA show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllCity. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, final week of the work year till the postseason begins. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Are you kidding me? We're getting to the playoffs? Getting to the playoffs, man. That's all. Just get me there. We've been talking about it for a long time because this has been a tough regular season with all these injuries and guys being out and just games that I was really looking forward to that didn't quite materialize. So now I know that I have one more regular season game Sunday. Actually, your squad. I got Denver, San Antonio. I will be there with Dave Pasch in San Antonio on Sunday evening. And that's my last regular season game. And then of course the play-in, we don't have any games airing for our network on the play-in game. So that goes over to our partners. And then my first game Saturday, man, next Saturday. I can't wait. We don't know where it's going to be, who it's going to be, but we're going to get a Saturday ABC primetime game. And I cannot wait to see playoff basketball.
Man, I didn't realize it was Saturday, not Sunday, everything's starting up. So looking forward to that. Obviously, we have a week of play-in, which should be pretty exciting. There's actually some really good ones. I was going to save this for the end. I actually just teased you, but since you brought it up, since you're on the call for this Nuggets-Spurs game, we have an interesting situation, Legs.
Okay.
So if you look at San Antonio and Oklahoma City are going to be on opposite ends of the bracket. I think we both agree that Denver is the next toughest team in the Western Conference. It's not that everybody else is bad, but that's the next toughest one. So
without question.
So whoever gets Denver on their side of the bracket has the tougher bracket.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City plays Denver tonight. San Antonio plays them on Sunday. If Oklahoma City loses tonight, and by the way, like their top 9 guys are out tonight. They're basically, I mean, as you would expect, they have nothing to play for in the win or loss column. But if they lose to Denver tonight, Denver's odds of being in San Antonio's side of the bracket go up. So it looks like OKC should want to lose. But the opposite is true of San Antonio. It's their last game of the year. They're not going to move up or down in the standings, but they could knock the Lakers into their side of the bracket and push Denver into OKC. So my question is, you want to get ready for the playoffs. You feel good about the season you had, but should San Antonio go all out in that Sunday game, the last game, just to get Denver opposite of them in the bracket?
Here's the thing. They'd be foolish not to want that. So You're talking about if you're San Antonio, push Denver down to 4 and let Oklahoma City deal with them in the second round.
Right.
And that's basically what you're saying. You'd be foolish not to want that. Clearly, the Denver Nuggets represent the greatest threat to those top 2 teams. So you can avoid having to go through them and Oklahoma City after that. Yeah, you should do that if you can. So will they go all out? I don't know. Like, are they going to, does that mean play Wemby, play Castle, play everybody? Because you desperately want to win that game. Because here's the thing. Most people would think with your spot locked up, those guys aren't going to play Sunday. And if you play them, are you kind of saying what we're saying? And if you're saying that, is that a good thing? Like if you're a team that, because and here's that this is like kind of like a paradox because, we both agree that's what you should want.
Yeah.
But by admitting that in some way, it people want to jump on that. It's like, oh, are you opening the door into some sort of insecurity? Like if you believe you can win it all, it's like, come on, everybody step right up, take your best shot. We don't care who we play, right? Because we've seen situations over the course of time where teams kind of manipulated where they wanted to finish because of who they wanted to play.
Right.
And we've seen teams get burned by that. So I don't know to answer to your question, but I will tell you this, in my opinion, it absolutely would behoove you to push them down to 4. Because here's the thing, Lakers have Phoenix and Utah, their last 2 games.
They should win.
Both at home, and even if you don't have Luka and Austin Reeves, They should win those 2 games. Phoenix isn't playing for anything. They're locked in. And obviously Utah, we've seen the extent to which they will go to lose games. So it's almost like you couldn't lose that game.
Yeah.
So you assume the Lakers win 2. That means if the Nuggets split their 2, they fall down to 4, and they're probably going to win their next game. So that leaves the last game of the year. And it's going to be very interesting. Obviously for me, calling the game, I would love it. I would love to see San Antonio play their guys. It gives us more guys to talk about. And I think that would be the proper approach. But I just wonder, what would people be saying? Like, what would the narrative be if you see those guys out there? And, you might have to play them 35 minutes, but because maybe Denver doesn't play anybody and San Antonio handles their business. They're up 25 at half. And you can rest those guys. I don't know. But I just wonder what the narrative would be if it's obviously your intent when everybody else is sitting their guys, if you're locked in and they're playing their guys. That would be an interesting question, but I definitely think that would be the smart move for San Antonio.
I just think if you look at it, the Lakers are banged up. The Timberwolves are banged up. I mean, we'll talk about the Wolves, I'm sure, here in the coming week because I think they're one of the more interesting teams. They're maybe the most interesting team in the Western Conference, but they're banged up. And if you just said, okay, I have the whoever survives that matchup as opposed to Denver, it's a big difference in my opinion, or it could be a very big difference. So, and then on top of that, even if you feel like we could beat that team, it's still, you're looking at a 6 or 7 game series leading into the conference finals that then, are you a little fatigued for it? So it's an interesting one. We'll see what happens. And then on top of that, Victor Wembanyama needs to play at least one of these last 2 games. They play tonight.
Well, they play Dallas. Is that tonight?
Tonight, yep.
So there you go. Play your 20 minutes in 1 second, and that's it. And that's what we kind of expect. And it was funny because I just had San Antonio, and he didn't play in that game against Portland the other night, Wednesday. And Mitch Johnson said before the game, like we were talking about, is Wemby going to get that one game in? He's like, he's going to get the game in, for sure. He goes, it's either going to be Friday or it's going to be Sunday. And I made a joke. And I said, can I give you my opinion? I'd much rather you play him on Sunday because I'm coming back to do this game on Sunday, and I'd like to see him. And he kind of laughed about it. I expect he'll play tonight. He'll get it in. And then look, and then they could decide, I guess, that's okay. Check that box. We got that game covered. Now you can make up their mind how they want to handle the last game. And I just want to address one of the comments said, talking about like manipulating the standings. This isn't really what you're doing. Really, like when you manipulate where you want to finish, typically, historically, when we've talked about this at the end of the season, it's usually a team not playing guys. Right? It's almost like conceding a game to drop a spot because it's a better matchup for you. If you just play your guys, to me, that's not manipulating the standings. That's just playing your team. So I don't, but it does go against the grain of what teams do at this time of year. And God forbid you get a rolled ankle out of one of these guys. But I mean, that could happen at any time. That could happen in the first quarter of your first playoff game too. So, I mean, you can't protect them. But at the same time, in a game where you're locked into a spot to play guys and you risk that might be the overriding narrative inside, their locker room where you're not going to see those guys on Sunday. Wouldn't shock. And by the way, they could still win the game without playing them. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how many guys they rest, right? If you're just completely shutting it down for the playoffs.
Well, they just played. Look, and I know you don't like Portland as much as I do, but they just played the Blazers and didn't play Wemby and Castle and won that game. Yeah. Because they're so deep and they're so good defensively. Like you can sit, and they've got 3 great guards. Like you can sit 1 or 2 of those guys and still be okay.
Well, I wonder if the Portland fans will be in the mentions today talking about how wrong I was about Portland.
Hey, Portland. Hey, listen, if you comment or you get after us on social media and you live in Portland, you like the Blazers, remember, directed at Adam.
Yeah, just at me, not legs. Legs are sticking up for the Blazers.
Not me. All right? I like your team.
Let's get into this game from last night because it was a good one. The Knicks and the Celtics, no Jaylen Brown in this game. So, but it is a preview of what we could see in the second round. I mean, it looks like these two teams are on a collision course, and you get the game coming down to the wire, coming down to the clutch. A couple plays stood out to me as very important. One, the Celtics had kind of an unforced turnover in the clutch. I'm sure you remember the play. It's like a skip pass that just was thrown off the mark and goes out of bounds.
Very to Pritchard.
Yeah, and very uncharacteristic. Because that's what they do is protect the ball and win the possession battle. And they gave up one with like 2 minutes to go. And then, of course, Josh Hart, known 3-point specialist, just going back to back for clutch threes to put the game away was such big time. He even got the bang call out from Mike Breen. So that's what stood out to me about this game, Legs. But what stood out to you?
I think for me, it's, in this incredible stat that it was being talked about a lot on the broadcast was the Knicks are the best fourth quarter team in the NBA. And you think about what that's going to mean in the playoffs, man. That's a big thing going in. Like when you have this comfort level that no matter what the situation, like you're going to navigate it better than your opponent, man, that's a lot of confidence because these are going to be tight games. The margins are really thin in the East. And I think even some of the first round series, those margins are going to be thin, but certainly in the second round of conference finals, you're talking about teams that can beat each other, all of them capable of it. It's going to be toe to toe. And so fourth quarters are going to be huge in these series, and they navigate those better than anybody in the NBA. That's a big deal. And they did it again in this game because they had to dig out. They're down 7 mid fourth quarter, and they make the plays. They get the stops. They make things tough on Tatum. He had a couple of tough drives where he did not get contact, did not get the call, got a little frustrated. And on the other end, Josh Hart, helps close the deal. Brunson has a couple of big baskets, couple of big passes. Those were clearly the two most important players for them offensively. So for me, that's kind of what it was. It's like you got this thing they're talking about during the broadcast. It's out there. The metrics say it. They're going to handle fourth quarters well, and they did it again against a team that, they didn't have Jalen Brown, so that's a big deal. But against a team that is equally confident that they're going to win those close games, and New York made the plays down the stretch. Boston did not, and on both ends. And so that to me was the biggest takeaway. Like the Knicks looked like to me a playoff game. It looked like a game that you're going to have to win a series because, let's say 3 or 4 games in a 7-game series come down to the last 5 minutes, one possession. A lot of these series will be like that, the longer ones. So the Knicks, for me to win that game, that was an important statement for them, an important step in continuing to believe that they can make a run and win the Eastern Conference.
You mentioned number 1 in the fourth quarter. They're third best in the clutch, so last 5 minutes of close games, they're the number 3 team at plus 20.5, by the way, which is a monster number. And to me, that reason is solely because of Jalen Brunson. The team obviously moving around him, but his ability to control and get good looks. But I think you could make the argument that it really is about the 2-man game of Karl-Anthony Towns and Brunson. They have been playing better since February 1st. They are the number 1 duo in on-ball picks right now, 1.3 points per possession since February 1st. And this is when they've been together for a couple years now, and it's always felt a little bit like Karl-Anthony Towns just has to sacrifice for Jalen Brunson, and how does he fit in? But it seems like they might be getting their chemistry at the right moment. And last night, they had a couple of those nice pocket passes, pick and pops. Karl-Anthony Towns had a big 3. So they had a little bit of that going in the clutch. Where do you see a growth between those two and a true budding 2-man game, not just Karl-Anthony Towns accentuating Jalen Brunson?
Here's where they've grown. And part of this is the media's responsibility. They've stopped talking about it incessantly. Seriously. And that's helped them. And you could tell we did several Knicks games, and it's like, you go in there and that seems like a standard question.
So true.
What's going on with Karl-Anthony Towns? And it's like, you could just tell like they're tired of talking about it. And because they just want to go win and just go play. And this is what it is. Let's go figure it out. Mike Brown has had the feeling all along like he doesn't want to call plays all the time. He doesn't want to call Karl-Anthony Towns' number or call 2-man game knowing it's going to be Brunson or Towns. And Karl-Anthony Towns knows he's going to get the ball. He wants him to play more in the flow. He doesn't want to call plays. He wants to play more free-flowing out of the backcourt. Let's get into something, and Karl-Anthony Towns more aggressively and smartly understand how to use leverage to get the ball where he wants it and be more effective. So, and he's been saying that all year. He started saying that in the preseason. And has it gotten better? Well, the numbers say yes, it's gotten better. It's not like all of a sudden Karl-Anthony Towns looks like this guy that like, oh my goodness, like this is the best I've ever seen him. It's not like that, but it's gotten incrementally better to the point where they're not talking about it every day. And that alone helps your team. It helps the air around you, and it helps narrow your focus to where it's just, you know what it's at right now. It doesn't matter. Numbers, stats, none of that stuff. All that matters is winning games and figuring it out and hopefully be the best version of yourself that you can be. Karl-Anthony Towns has had more of those nights than he did in the first half of the season, and that's a good sign for the Knicks.
What do you make of Hart coming in clutch? He was 5 of 7 from the 3-point line. I mean, we're talking about swing players here later on. He could easily be a swing player because he gives you the same thing every single night, the hustle, the rebounding, the defense. But when he makes shots, it's completely different. Last night he did.
He will come up later when we talk about that in a different way than you're thinking. But so look, you can't count on that. Obviously, like that's not something you go, okay, you're not going to guard Josh Hart, then great. This is how it's going to go. Like the other night at the San Antonio game, they didn't guard Carter. All right, they didn't guard him at all. San Antonio's 5 for 6 from the 3-point line. And he actually raised his 3-point percentage from 30 to 33 in one game because he hasn't taken a lot, right? And he made him pay. And San Antonio wasn't guarding Klingon. He could have as many as he wants. Right. And Hart's going to get some of this treatment, and he's not going to obviously always shoot the ball like that. But he is a guy that can find ways to win games and find ways to like have his fingerprints all over it and be impactful. This is the best he's ever shot from the 3-point line for a season. And it's not even close. So it's more likely that he can have an impact from the 3-point line, but you certainly don't expect late in the game he's going to make like back-to-back big threes, and there are going to be teams that are going to shift their defenses to contain Brunson off ball screen, and so you get 3 playing 2 because somebody's got to rotate over on the slide, and that means when the ball's reversed, it's going to be him, it's going to be Anunoby, whoever else you have on the floor at the time, maybe it's a Shamet over there, whoever it may be. It doesn't, or Bridges, it doesn't mean that that's what it's going to look like, but it's more likely than it used to be, and that's a great thing for the Knicks because that is still kind of the guy you have to decide to not rotate to, or you're not as concerned about rotating to, and he made him pay last night. And actually one of them was a really tough shot. He had to catch it late clock and like did a side dribble and went up over a contested hand. It wasn't like a stand there, catch and shoot. This last one was that ended the game basically. So this is bottom line is it's a good thing for the Knicks because it's more likely to go in than it was before. He's more confident going into the postseason. I still think that is going to be a strategy teams are going to employ. Dare that to happen. And he made them pay last night.
One of the margins, like in a potential series that I find interesting is the rebound battle because the Knicks are a really good rebound team. So are the Boston Celtics. But the Knicks, when they get Mitchell Robinson getting a bunch of second chance points, but Josh Hart second chance possessions, it's a huge advantage for them. But the Celtics won the rebound battle in this one. They're both like right next to each other in the standing. So this is like a fair fight, and it is an important margin. The fact that the Knicks got it to me is pretty meaningful. Do you see that as a swing in the series between these two, that both of those teams are kind of counting on their teams to get second chance opportunities, and both teams are counting on being able to prevent second chance opportunities?
I think it's more important to the Knicks than it is going to be to the Celtics. I think the Knicks are going to rely on that. And Mitchell Robinson's always going to be a big factor in that. He only had 2 in this game. He's usually good for 4 or 5 a night. And he will be getting those type of games in the playoffs. There's no question. He's done that. He repeatedly does that. He'll get you 5-6 offensive rebounds, even if he only plays 15, 18 minutes. It's a major problem for teams. And the way he does it sometimes is he gets it or tips it out, or he gets it and immediately kicks it out. So he doesn't have a chance. You don't have a chance to wrap him up and send him to the line, which I think is a strategy team should employ. If he's on the floor in the last 5 minutes of the game, you've got to grab him if he gets an offensive rebound and force that situation. And it doesn't get another opportunity where you got to guard Jalen Brunson for 40 seconds on one trip, because you're going to get burned if that's the case. More important for the Knicks than it is, I think, for the Boston Celtics. One thing I want to note here, and they were talking about in the broadcast, and I think just even today, it's still in the air, talking about hey, 2 seed, man, 2 seed is still alive. No, it's not. You know why? You know why it's not? Because the Boston Celtics play New Orleans at home tonight.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, come on. They're not even trying. So the Celtics, and it's a short flight back from New York. They got back at a reasonable time. For a road game and then home the next night, that's about as good as you're going to get if you're Boston. You're only in New York. You get home, you play the Pelicans tonight, and there it is. It's over. And you're right. This is not likely. This will be the second round matchup. People thought maybe this could be the conference finals if one of these teams could knock off Detroit. This is now going to be, they're on a collision course assuming they both take care of business in the first round, which I think everybody expects them to.
One concern for the Celtics, and the Celtics have title aspirations this year, so we're kind of like looking at the nitty-gritty details here. But Derrick White is shooting 32% over his last 15 games. He's been in a kind of an extended three-point shooting slump. 0 of 6 in this game. Is this like, I mean, you're a shooter. What do you make of the idea of a guy who's been very consistent with his three-point shot for a while going through a rut right into the playoffs?
Listen, this is more than just even going into the playoffs. He's shooting 32% for the season. Okay, this is a guy that if you look at his past 3 years, 38, 39, 38. So that's just below the 40% threshold. Now, for a guy like Derrick White, who's not what you would consider a pure shooter, 38 is about the number you want to be at. If you're like a pure shooter, then you need to be in the 40s. He's 38, 39 1 year. That's what you're expecting now. He dropped to 32 this year, and he only had one sort of hot streak that was not even that long of a streak. For the most part, this has gone on all year with Derrick White. Now, the great thing about Derrick White is he finds a million ways to help you win a game, regardless of that. And the bailout for him has been Pritchard and Shireman. Like those guys being able to make threes the rate that they have, and even Hauser, I guess you throw in there, there's not as much need on a nightly basis for Derrick White to do it. But listen, look, is Shireman going to play as well in a postseason series? If teams can now lock in on them and you go, okay, we got to be a little bit more selective when we rotate off him, because they had 2 times last night in this game. The guys could really stroke it, and the Knicks just left them. Like you're going to see in a playoff series where you go, Shireman's on the floor, Hauser, those guys are getting different coverage in the postseason. You're going to have to. And now, look, it's not going to be easy to guard Tatum and Brown by doing that, but at the same time, those shots are going to be tougher for those guys. So now, do you need a Derrick White who can get his own a little bit better? And if he's not playing well offensively, not shooting well, and those guys are limited a little bit more, now there is an effect on their offense overall. Right now, you're not seeing it because it's being made up for by other guys. Some of those guys may be a little bit less efficient, effective in the postseason, which will put more of the spotlight on Derrick White playing better.
Anything else from this game that's standing out to you? I guess one last thing I would say is this is the site of Jayson Tatum's injury. He said it was a big hurdle for him to go and play this one. He said he was nervous, to get through it. But I do think there's a psychological edge to going to the scene of the crime when you've had a really tough injury. And
I don't know, man. I was surprised by that. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Really?
That he said that because, and I'm just going to speak from my own experience. Now, do you think it's different if you do it at home? Because I completely destroyed my knee. Like there was a stick of dynamite in there when I hurt I really completely blew out 3 ligaments in my knee on one cut. The next time I took the court was on the same floor.
Yeah.
It was 10 months later. And I wasn't walking out of the locker room thinking like, oh man, I didn't like go to the team and say, hey, can we start out with a road game for me? Because I'm really dreading going to the right wing because that's where it happened. I was a little bit surprised. Now, look,
you're too pragmatic. You're too logical.
Maybe. I was just surprised. But look, I'm thinking at it. Well, maybe that's because I did it at home and you're on that court all the time, as opposed to a road game, especially a rival, Madison Square Garden. Like that's a different vibe than anywhere else in the league for the Celtics. So maybe that's why I just was a little bit surprised that he thought playing in general. Yes, 100%. Like my goodness, I remember when run up to the table to check in the first time after this was 10 months later. And I remember how incredibly nervous I was to go out and play again, praying that I would never go through it again. And so your first time you play, and for a while that lasts, but to say this specific court, I was a little bit surprised.
You might be too logical. Although I will ask you this. You said earlier that it was funny how much the New York media and really the NBA media just always ask Karl-Anthony Towns about fitting in with Jalen Brunson. It is a question that comes up once a week. Media's changed since you played. I mean, there's just a lot more of it. There's more people, covering the game. Did you ever go through a slump? Because I saw this with Cam Johnson earlier in the year where there was a month where every single time he took the podium, people would ask him why do you think you're not making shots? What do you think's going on? Did that ever you ever hit into a slump and people just peppered you with, Tim, why are you missing shots lately? What's going on?
But I'll tell you this. I learned something early on, and this is the advice I give young players when I get asked, and I run into guys all the time, and I've been reached out to speak to certain guys coming into the league and just talk to them. I learned early on this. This is why it's important to be as courteous and nice and respectful and polite as you can. And if you're comfortable speaking to them and stuff, like it makes it easier, which I always was, but you want those guys to like you as a person because then when you're going through that stretch, and you inevitably will, they're less likely to want to eviscerate you. And so I learned that, and I think that helped me because I think I was genuinely liked by the media core of the teams I played on. And I always had something to say. They came to me to get a good quote on whatever. Right. I gave them some insight, but at the same time, they kind of were pulling for me. They liked me. So it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean I was, completely immune from it. Yes, absolutely. Especially when I came back from that injury and I really struggled shooting the ball for a while there at the beginning. And nobody was more frustrated than me. And yeah, of course you could ask about it. Hey, what's different? I noticed you were 0 for 6 tonight from the 3. Like that's not what you used to do. It's like, yeah, man, and then you don't want to smack a mic out of somebody's hand.
Legs, you used to make shots. Now you're missing them. What's changed?
Yeah. What's funny is one night I had to wear this heavy metal brace on my leg, and now they're streamlining these things. This was a big, heavy, cumbersome brace. Yeah. And I was wearing it for a while, and I was so frustrated, man. And I remember a specific game. I was like 0 for 5 or 0 for 6 or something. I think it was against the Raptors for some reason, if I recall. And after the game, I went into the locker room and I took the brace because it was so cumbersome and bothering me so much. I took the brace and I threw it as hard as I could against a concrete wall in the locker room and broke it. and it was like custom made for me. So they weren't going to like all of a sudden get another one like that quick. So I didn't have a choice. The next game, I wore a neoprene sleeve for the first time. I didn't have a brace because I didn't have a choice. And it started to unlock things for me mentally. Wow. I felt more like myself after that. So, yeah, I was frustrated. The media was frustrated. The fans were frustrated. I remember getting booed by some people one time, like leaving the court. And it was my first experience since I had gotten to Washington. Because the fan base really, really liked me a lot. I came in, I shot the ball well, like they pulled for me, all that. And I remember how I came back, I was struggling. I got booed one time, like after a game. I heard some comments, Legler, coming from as you're walking through the tunnel. And it was like my first time going through it, man. I can just tell you, it sucked. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't very happy about that.
Well, speaking of injuries, there's a high-profile one that we found out about last night. Joel Embiid, likely out for the season. Out of nowhere with appendicitis, of all things, Legs, that could happen, appendicitis. We've been excited about the Sixers. I mean, they've been this mystery box. It's been a weird season, really a season for hell. I feel for their fan base, man. What a tough year when you're constantly waiting for the team to get back together. They get back together and appendicitis hits. This is a crazy one to me, but I'm just writing off. The big story here is I'm writing off the Sixers. He's likely out for at least a round of the playoffs, if not more. I don't know what's left for them to look forward to.
It's almost incomprehensible with everything that this guy has dealt with physically. And it's been how many years at this time of the year, either limited because of an injury, not available at all because of an injury. He's had remember the Toronto series a number of years ago because Ben Simmons was still on the team and Embiid was physically sick like the entire series. The one that the double bouncer starts bouncer by Kawhi. That series, Embiid was sick like the whole series. Another time in the playoffs, he's wearing a Phantom of the Opera mask because he had the orbital fracture right at the end of the season when he was playing great. So it feels like it's always been something, but it finally looked like they look like a dangerous team. Yeah. Paul George has been playing out of his mind. You got Maxey, and Embiid is like upright going into the postseason. This is a dangerous team, and this, I was on another podcast yesterday, and I was like, and I don't know, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Do you know anybody personally that had appendicitis?
Yes,
you do. So I don't even know a person. Nobody in my family, no friends. So I know it's out there because you hear about it all the time, but I'm saying, I personally have never experienced it in my whole life. Anybody close to me that ever had it. So it's not like this thing that's like happening all over the league. In fact, I don't even know. Did you see anything today? How many guys have?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Like in the last 10 years, how many guys have had appendicitis in the NBA? So it's so incredibly rare for an NBA player. And yet here it is, man, happening to him. And so let me ask you a question. Because of that, right now they're tied with Charlotte in the 8-9. You know, do you
Might
think
be good for my Hornets? Yeah.
Well, let me see something. Let me just, because I haven't looked at this. Philadelphia plays at the Pacers tonight.
It's a win.
You got to win the game.
It's a win. I mean, the Pacers are going to lose.
If the Pacers win the game, like what are they doing? Like they're not trying to win. So, and then the Bucks at home. You got to win that game.
So you got a couple tankings. Yeah.
Philadelphia is going to win too. Now they're tied right now with the Hornets.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming that Philadelphia has a tiebreaker because in the standings they're listed ahead of them.
Yeah, I'm guessing so. So Charlotte is going to have to take the tough road. I mean, it just looks like
Charlotte's going to have to beat the Heat at home, and then they're going to have to. Do you think Orlando beats Philly?
Oh man, it may be just. I mean, what the wind's out of your sail if you're Philadelphia. So like they have the talent to win this game. I mean, Maxey, Paul George, you still have guys. But what is your mentality going in right now when you're building up for something all year long and it's taken from you at the goal?
Yeah, like even like last night they lose to Houston and like Paul George has a terrible game and he's been so good. And I looked at the box score, I didn't see the game, and I'm just like, I wonder if Paul George was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me, because he's playing great, but it's nice when you're in that lane. It's a little different now. Now it's like, oh man, Paul George got to be spectacular along with Maxey. So look, I don't think it's inconceivable that they could beat the Magic without Embiid. It's not like the Orlando were some super high-powered offensive team. I think they potentially could win, but let's say Philly wins that game. That means Charlotte has to beat Miami, and then they've got to beat the Magic. So they either got to beat Miami and then either Philly or Orlando on the road. Do you think Charlotte can pull that off and get into the playoffs?
I hope so, because I'm rooting for it so hard, and I like them in a first round. I just think it'd be interesting. But I do think the hardest part will be those first two games, just because there's no margin for error. Talk about a great play-in team. Miami Heat have been here a dozen times since the play-in began. They know how to do the play-in. It's just tough, man. So
it's almost like you feel if Philadelphia clearly without Embiid is not winning a first-round series.
I know.
Okay, so it's almost like, well, if that's the case,
it's in your head.
Let's get Charlotte into 8. All right. And then they've got 2 opportunities to get in, because that's a far more entertaining team if Philly doesn't have Embiid.
Well, I will say what I want is Charlotte versus Detroit, because I don't think Charlotte has a chance against Boston. But against Detroit, it's at least a nice style fight, offense versus defense. That would be fun. Let's take a break, though, because I want to get to the segment that's on the other side, which is you made a list of players who could swing a series. This is going away from the superstars. This is other players that can swing a series. We're going to get to your list on the other side. Sunglass season. Seriously, you're planning for spring, for summer. You're going to be out in the sun. You're going to be driving in the sun. You need some sunglasses. Luckily, you've got Shady Rays, because they've changed the game. They've got sunglasses that are made for real life. All different types of polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive sunglasses like aviators and navigators, but they have every single type of sunglass you could want. But the wild part is they have this crazy deal that defines them as a company. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So you can wear your sunglasses without fear on hikes, at concerts, on a boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. Go to shadyrays.com and use our code, ALLCITY, all one word, ALLCITY, for 40% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. I also want to tell you guys about Shopify. What kind of dreams did you have when you were a kid? What do you want to be when you grew up? Well, how about now? Are you thinking about starting your own business or side hustle? If so, Shopify is the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Shopify even powers the All City merch store. Shopify has you covered with website creation, product description, email and social media marketing, and more. They also have AI tools designed to help you maximize sales. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. Back here, segment 2 of the All NBA show. Me and Tim Legler breaking everything down as we get ready for the playoffs. you have to make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because once it gets to the play-in, the playoffs, man, these games just become so much more fun to break down. And that's what we are looking at starting next week. So make sure you're subscribed and share the show with people on social media. Let them know that this is the show you listen to. All right, Legs. We're talking about players who could swing a series. This, to me, is about role players. You made the list. I have a couple names that I just have in mind. But to me, this is about guys who are very good role players that maybe have a little bit of like variance to their game. That's kind of how I would think of this, meaning they can be great some nights, they can be bad some nights, so it's going to swing the series. But I'm curious how you approached it.
I think some of these guys are actually, they're in that area between role player and star.
Okay.
Some of them are definitely role players. I got 4 East and 4 West, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on all of them, but I do want to cover these guys because I think – so I said earlier I was going to bring up Josh Hart, but not in the way you thought. And the reason is because there's 2 guys on their team, and I chose the other one.
Okay.
So because there's no question, you're right, Josh Hart is one of those guys. But I think that this guy is more likely to potentially win you a game or two because his upside offensively some nights is so high, and it's OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby for me, and he's always going to be great defensively, as is Hart. OG Anunoby, like he can have those games where he gives you 25, 26, like a couple times in a series. Because what we're talking about here is, like I said earlier, these series are going to be tight. I think for the very beginning in the East, these are going to be tight series. Certainly the second round and beyond. You're talking about a couple of games in the series where this is like a big difference maker because some of these guys, you're just expecting it. You're expecting Brunson to be a certain thing. You're expecting Towns to have like certain numbers. Those other guys, like Bridges doesn't fall in this category for me because I don't expect that out of Bridges. Bridges is going to be 15, 16. Like that's what you're going to get. Hart, for the most part, is going to be in that area and then doing other stuff. Oh, Anunoby has a ceiling where you can go 25, 30. And he's very capable. And if he does that, it totally changes them on a given night offensively. So he was my first one for the Knicks. Do you want to comment on him?
I think it's interesting thinking about him against the Celtics specifically. And last night, it wasn't like a huge impact offensive game. To your point, he is a guy that can win. Like if you told me he had 2 23-plus point games in a series against Boston, in my mind, Knicks' chances, the odds go way up. You're like, okay, well, if he gives you 2 20-plus point games, like, you know, good scoring output, then I think the Knicks are in the series. So I agree with you, but I think that matchup is in particularly interesting because his role is so much going to be, his focus is going to have to be so much more on the defensive end in that series, I imagine.
That's fair. That's fair. I look at him and his track record and how good he can be on some nights in big games. And I mean, there's other nights that, you know, he's a little bit quieter offensively. He's always good defensively, but man, the nights he shoots it well, and typically for me, that means, you know, getting off to a good start, 6, 8, 10 in the first quarter. You feel like OG Anunoby is going to be here all night now. It's going to be an additional problem for teams if he gets off to a good start. If you can keep him corralled early, it's a good chance now you're mostly focusing on Brunson. Yeah. But if he gets going early in the game, now you've got a whole nother thing that you've got to deal with. So I put him down. Another guy from the game last night, I think Payton Pritchard is one of those guys.
Yeah.
I think Payton Pritchard, he continues to amaze me how good he is offensively, man. Like he's 6'1", if that. He's so quick with the ball, but like to get your shot off at his size off the dribble, because he's a lot more than just catching and shooting threes. He does most of his work off the dribble, and he's 6'1", and he still finds ways to get mid-rangers and gets to the rim.
And paint points, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Like
Post
he
up.
figures a way to score all over the floor. And like, I'm looking at their team and saying, okay, well, what if Derrick White struggles? Like we've talked about, he has one of those nights. And look, you know, maybe Tatum or Brown have one of those nights, and it's an important game. It's a 2-1 series. It's 2-2, whatever it may be. And bam, there goes Pritchard. Pritchard gives you 25 on one of those nights and like is the difference in the game. I do think he's that valuable to this team. Love watching him play, so I put him down here. Do you agree?
I do agree. And one of the things that I think is important about him in a playoff series is you have a big three with Tatum, Brown, and Derrick White. Like you have those three on the court to start. But once you start subbing, do you lose some punch? Well, you can take one of those guys out, usually Tatum, and put in Pritchard, and it's like, yeah, we have another threat to score off the dribble from the three-point line, and you still have, you know, something of a big three in terms of three guys that require your focus defensively. And I think that's why he's so important. He completes a 48-minute rotation with big three threats around the court. So I do agree.
Very good. All right, my next one, And this is off of a team that I don't expect to get out of the first round, but I do think he can potentially make that first round series a hell of a lot more interesting, and it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like if that ends up being Cleveland, Atlanta, Nickeil Alexander-Walker in that series, like he could be the difference maker in making that a much longer series than you think, because I think he's developed into that good of an offensive player. Like I watch him now, and I'm not like, okay, wow, Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 20 last night. No, now it's like that's the floor for him. Now you're expecting like he's 25, 30, maybe up, and doing it efficiently. So I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a first-round series, particularly if it's Cleveland, that to me could be a guy that you're really looking at, man, having a couple of huge games where now all of a sudden you look at it and Cleveland's got to win a game 7 at home.
I need it, Legs. So he's had such a great second half of the year, really a great year all around, but a great second half of the year, breaking out into a star. But I do feel like when you break out the way he has in Atlanta, it can go away. Like it can be, people will forget about this great run. It won't even become Linsanity that New York had, where it became a talking point. It just becomes a thing that only insiders or diehards really know about. If it happens in the playoffs, it's a thing. And so I need it to happen because he's been such a good player that I need this to be a mainstream. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the star. I need it to be mainstream.
All right, my next one, Daniss Jenkins.
Yeah.
And the reason is this. Now, typically, I kind of feel with Detroit, if Cade Cunningham doesn't play great, they're in trouble. I just think he's that important to their offense because they're not a good shooting team. They're great defensively. They can turn you over. They're good on the glass. But they need to score the basketball in a playoff series against some of these teams. Boston, Cleveland, the Knicks. These teams can put up numbers. You're going to get these teams in the second round. You're going to have to score. For me, if Cade Cunningham really struggles, the only way that they're going to be able to win is if they somehow get more production out of Jenkins than like you're expecting on a given night. And he was really good filling in for him when he was out. Yeah. So he's not going to get as much opportunity with the ball in his hands. But he could be on a night if Cade struggles, you go to both of them together because they have a lot of streaky guys that they play mainly for defense. Jenkins is a guy that can get you 15, 16. He can make some threes. Like if Cade is really struggling, maybe Jenkins is a guy that can bail them out on a given night, which might be a lot for Detroit because I think some of these games are going to be tougher for them than these other teams because it's just offense can be a problem for them a lot of nights. So do you like Jenkins as much as I do?
Well, what I think the story for me is you play a certain way for most of the year and Cade is obviously MVP candidate. You feel great about it. When he goes down, the team has to like look in the mirror and figure out, can we do this without him and who steps up? And that happened. They were unbelievable in his absence. They surprised me for sure. And so now you look at it and say, can you blend everything together? Can Jenkins still give you what he gives you? And you go back to what Cade obviously provided for 2 seasons now. Can you blend those things in a way that just makes you better in aggregate? I think so, because when you're young, I think you're more malleable in terms of those types of things. We can adjust because we're still discovering who we are. Is it enough time, though, is one of my big questions. Like, if this happened a month earlier and Cade comes back and you get a month now to say, like, okay, how do we use what we learned in Cade's absence and blend it? I think it works. If you only have 2-3 games, that can be a little tough. But nonetheless, I'll tell Pistons, because I see some Pistons fans in the chat and they're all upset. You're in the best spot you can be in as a fan base. Number 1 seed, but yet everybody still doubts you. And for good reason. It's just people go with history in the playoffs. They want to see it. You look at how desperately Oklahoma City fans want to be the team that everybody doubts, but yet nobody doubts them. Vegas has them as heavy favorites. Pistons fans embrace it. You only get to be doubted a few years when you're ascending, and then you just become a favorite. Enjoy this. Everyone doubts you, and if you're even in the first round, second round, whatever, you get to say, haha, I told you so.
Well, look, here's the thing with them. I mean, they're going to the conference finals.
You think so? Detroit?
Yeah. Yes. The fact that they look, and I think, like I said, I've been saying all along, like any of those top 4 teams are capable of beating each other. But I think Detroit, assuming that they would get, let's say, the winner of the Cleveland-Atlanta series, and let's say that's Cleveland, you get Cleveland in the second round, I'm picking Detroit to win that series. Like, it's not like it's some aberration that they're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But for these people that are Pistons fans to act like they're just going to roll through whoever they would get in the conference finals coming out of the Boston New York series, if that's how it plays out. That's just ridiculous. That's you again having your nightlight on too bright with the logo on it. Like, just be honest about it. It's not like they're an infallible team. They have a problem with their shooting.
Yeah.
You can overcome it most nights in the regular season because there's a lot of teams you're playing that aren't at full strength. Now, and they played well without Cade Cunningham, and Jenkins stepped up. Give them credit. And they are an elite defense, and they're a great rebounding team, and they turn you over, all that stuff. They do struggle in the half court to shoot the ball. Don't act like that's not a factor. And if you play a team like Boston or you play a team like New York in the conference finals, and there are nights that those teams are going to make 18 threes, I guarantee you there's probably going to be a game when Boston makes 20 threes, and you make 7, 8, 9, 10, that's tough to overcome. So don't act like it's not a factor. I don't like when people get all outraged because you act like a team it has a flaw. Give me a break, man. We're giving the Pistons all the credit in the world. We've talked about them all year. It's a tough time to lose your best player because you've got to incorporate him back now. Hopefully he finds his rhythm. But fortunately, I think they've got certainly one round that I don't think it's going to be a problem to win. And he can hopefully find his rhythm again in that. You're going to need Cade Cunningham to be really good to win the next two series.
Yeah.
You are. Whether you think that or not, be my guest, have at it. He's their best player on a limited offensive team. He has to be really good for them to advance all the way to the NBA Finals. And that's all we're saying. I think they're getting to the conference finals. It's going to be a hell of a year for them.
I'll go the other way. I don't think they'll make the conference finals, but we'll see. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's part of this depends on who they get in the first round. Orlando or Philadelphia, I think, is like a really easy, just ease into the playoff series, but we'll see how it shakes out. Cleveland versus them in the second round could be pretty compelling. All right, who's next on your list?
All right, I'm going to go one more from the Eastern Conference. You're going to love this. LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball. And I'm going to tell you why.
You're talking about all offensive player of the year?
Listen, here's why. Here's why I'm going to say LaMelo Ball. I would pull this up because I had it a second ago. I lost my page. LaMelo Ball's splits between winning and losing are so dramatic.
Yeah.
They're so dramatic. He is such a bad shooter. When they lose, and it's like it's not like that's connected. LaMelo Ball, because of the way he plays on the nights he really struggles, because he has nights, and you scattered all throughout his season. You're just 7 for 22, 4 for 19. I called the game. He would miss his first 10 threes. Like there are games when it goes ice cold, and he's still shooting the ball. So for me, a guy like that, in his wins, he shoots 44% from the field. He shoots 41% from the three-point line. So LaMelo Ball is a trigger for them offensively. When he gets it going, they're a really difficult team to stop. When they lose in 30 games, he shoots 37 from the field. He shoots 30 from the three. And he doesn't take any fewer shots.
I know.
Okay, so that's a big change to your efficiency as an offense, and that's why I put him on here. If LaMelo Ball gets cooking in that first round series, assuming they get out of play-in, they got to do that. Okay, even in play-in games, if he gets cooking, they're a really tough team to corral and slow down and stop, and that's why they're much more dangerous. That's why I think like he is maybe one of the ultimate swing players. Like how he plays completely determines in a lot of nights how they play as a team.
What's fun is we haven't seen him in the playoffs, and that type of variance to me, I'm so curious which way it swings because it's a small sample size in the playoffs. It's like that one. It's not like he had some good games, some bad games. You'll feel about the series overall, and I'm just so curious. Is he one of these guys that doesn't miss in the playoffs? I would bet it because he seems like a guy that is impervious to like self-doubt. So I would bet that he gets into those and he just like starts gunning away. But I want to see it, and I'm telling you, Legs, I am pulling so hard for Charlotte to make it out of this play-in because I just think they're the most fun option of all the teams there. And I hope it happens. I
am too. And I don't have a dog in this fight, but
just entertainment.
They're just fun. I mean, it's fun to watch them. So now we go to the Western Conference. My first guy's Keldon Johnson from the Spurs. I know, you don't believe that. You don't think that's that important. I guess I think your reaction right there is saying they're that good it doesn't matter. Is that, I'm assuming is that what you're saying?
My thought on Keldon Johnson is that he was really important to their rotation early on in the season, but the team is just so good now that he is one of many X factors for them.
Oh man,
that's
I don't
how
know.
I feel.
I feel differently. He's also one of those guys, and there's a handful of them around the league. The reaction to everything he does in that building is different. That he is the guy, man, that they identify with. Comes in, he's a built, he's like a 6'5", 6'6" guy that plays like a power forward, but he can shoot the ball. He's always on the floor. He takes charges. To me, and look, and they are really good and deep, and they're great defensively, and they got Wemby and all that. So maybe they're not going to need him, but I do think they're going to get pushed. Depending on how these series break out in the next 2 rounds after the first one, they're going to get tested and pushed. And I do think Keldon Johnson can be a guy that can be someone you're talking about enough in a given broadcast that at the end of the game, you go, man, they wouldn't have won that game without Keldon Johnson. And I think their last 2 rounds could be that tight.
I'm so curious to see how the Spurs team performs in the playoffs because they to me feel very mature given their youth. Like Castle to me, I don't think he's going to get rattled in the playoffs because he seems like such an even keel guy. He doesn't play the game with high emotional swings. He plays the game like a Spur, quite frankly. And so in my mind, he's going to have a great playoffs, but I just want to see it. And then guys like Keldon Johnson who provide a more veteran, typically he would be the anchor, the emotional anchor. I've been here before everybody, whatever. But I just wonder how much that team will need it. Maybe every team needs it.
De'Aaron Fox. I almost said him because it's interesting about De'Aaron Fox. This is a guy that averaged 25 points a game 4 different times, and he's like under 20, and he played only 30 minutes once in the last 12 games. But that he has to, he can give you a 30-point game, and I don't know if he's going to have to. But if Castle struggles or they don't get anything out of Dylan Harper one night, maybe Fox has to take over a game a little bit and late game. I still think they rely on him. So he was the other option for that team. Next is, and we don't have to talk a lot about this guy because we do pretty often, is Aaron Gordon. That's a pretty obvious one. Aaron Gordon is, to me, like the ultimate pendulum player in this league. When Aaron Gordon really plays well and you're talking about him a lot, you're noticing him a lot, man, does that change the way you view Denver's long-term prospects in a given season?
The only reason I disagree about him being an X factor is I think he's a pretty consistent guy given the role that he has. Like he's going to defend. He's going to be the best version of himself in the playoffs. And so to me, it feels less like, he could have bad games and it hurts him. He'll be great. The only question I have for him is health. Like, will he survive? Because if Denver to me can beat anybody when their big 3 are healthy and you have relative health behind them. They can beat anybody. But if Aaron Gordon's out, the whole system falls apart and they're going to get smoked by the top team. So he's playing great right now, and I just expect him to be great in the playoffs as long as he's on his 2 feet.
And I got one more from the Western Conference, and it is Jaden McDaniels.
Man, another one that's injury-based here, man.
It is.
He's back.
He came back. I mean, so we'll see how that goes, and it's going to be tough sledding for them regardless. I mean, I don't know what right now they're sitting there. They're going to be the 6th seed. They're locked in pretty much to the 6th seed. So that means you're either getting Denver or the Lakers. I mean, if it plays out the way we talked about earlier at the start of the show, San Antonio wins that last game of the year, pushes Denver down to 4, assuming the Lakers win their last 2 games. And now it's Minnesota Lakers in the first round, and you don't have Luka and you don't have Austin Reeves.
Wolves are winning it.
That changes how much you view who's going to win that series. And Jaden McDaniels, I think, is going to have to be a big part of that. I think Jaden McDaniels is going to have to play well in that series. And he's improved so dramatically as an offensive player over the last couple of years. I give him a lot of credit because he's such a great defender. But now, you're kind of expecting those big moments out of him offensively. And I think he's going to have to happen if they want to pull that off. And now you get this unexpected, team, Minnesota, which I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be unexpected for you. For me, it would be a little bit because of the way the Lakers were playing at one point.
Yeah.
The health changed everything. And now it's like Minnesota has a legit shot to win a series.
I'm going to bring them back up in just a second, though, as in our last segment.
Sure.
Jaden McDaniels is a good one just because, again, I don't know how healthy he'll be. It is nice that he came back. I was wondering why he came back rather than rested out, but maybe you want to just get 2 games under your leg.
I think that's smart.
And then you get a week off, like a
Yeah.
whole week off, and you can recover a lot in a week. Obviously, Anthony Edwards, we want to wait and see just how he's playing once he comes back as well. So they're just such a wild card to me. But Jaden McDaniels is a huge X factor because he can be a major offensive engine too. Like, he's one of these guys that in a game 3, series tied 1-1, game 3 on the road, he has 26, 27 points. He's capable of it. You know, like you said with OG Anunoby, he can consistently do the part of his job he's known for, defend and disrupt. But when he gives you 25, 26 points, it's like, oh, he's also a go-to scoring guy. McDaniels has that in him. So I think he's a good pick here. I have 2 names for you, or I have 1 name really that you left off that I think is maybe the biggest X factor in all of the Western Conference playoffs, and that's Reed Sheppard. I don't think anybody's taking Houston very seriously right now. Like we just mentioned the top 3 teams, and then there's a drop-off, Minnesota, we'll see what happens. Houston, to me, they're on a run over these last couple weeks, in large part because of Reed Sheppard and just the idea of playing him with his weaknesses, but saying he just completes what we need to do. If you told me Reed Sheppard, if I told you, Legs, in a big playoff series, maybe it's round 2, maybe it's round 1, but maybe it's round 2, Reed Sheppard had 2 games where he hit 6 threes. Very possible. The guy gets red hot. If you give you 2 games in a big series against good teams where he gives you a big 3-point scoring output, you'd say, you know what? Actually, they do have a chance against those top teams if that happens.
I like this pick a lot. And he had a great start to the year, and then he had a really long stretch where he did not shoot the ball very well. I mean, talking about low 30s from the 3-point line. After getting off to this incredible start, we were all talking about him. And still playing a lot of minutes because they desperately need his shooting. But these last 8 games, they've won them all that he's played in. He's 50% from the 3-point line.
And I don't feel like it's crazy. He's like, his shots look like they're going in every time he shoots it.
No, that's a really good one because you're right. I think all of us collectively got so frustrated with the Rockets throughout the season that not like we completely dismissed them you can't a team like that, but definitely weren't talking about him very much anymore. And here they have the way they've quietly closed the season.
Yeah.
Right. And still really not being talked about. It could be a much bigger factor than we think. And Reed Sheppard will play a huge part of that because when he has played well this season, it is amazing how different it is to cover their team in the half court. If he's struggling a little bit or whatever, your coverages are in such a way that he just is quiet. It's amazing how much more difficult that becomes for Durant and Şengün. When you're now really got one eye on Reed Sheppard and where is he, and because he's making shots, that means now he's even more active chasing the ball. Now you're really reacting to him. It's amazing how much easier it makes it for everybody else. So that's a really good observation on your part.
When teams are good down the stretch, but nothing changed, sometimes I can be skeptical of it. Maybe they got home games, whatever. But something changed for them. They changed their starting lineup. They changed their rotation, and then they went on a run. There's just something I go, you know what? He might have completed something for them that makes them more dangerous than we're giving them credit for.
By the way, real quick, can you remember, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll remember this better than I will. But over the last, half dozen years, like, do you remember getting to the point where we're 72 hours from the season being over and we don't know any of the matchups in the first round?
Now, is it not a single one? You're right.
The play-in obviously changed that because you're not going to know the 1-8-2-7. We know that, but I'm talking about the 3-6-4-5s. Like,
you're
here
right.
we are. We don't know any of those.
You're right.
We got 3 days left in the season, so a lot's going to have to get clarified here. And maybe going into Sunday, it'll all be clarified.
It might come down to the last game, though, because to your point, 3, 4, 5 could come down to the very last day. So we might not know a single matchup until the last day, which would be kind of fun, I think. I think it would be fun. A little selection Sunday in the NBA. Before we get out of here, Legs, is there a dark horse team that could make a conference finals run? If we look at right now, the top 4 teams in the East feel like there's separation between them and everyone else, not just in the record, but also in quality. And then the top 3 teams in the West. But is there a team, and we'll just say 5 and below in the standings right now, that you could see making a conference finals run? That'll be considered dark horse run if you make it to the conference finals.
I would say Minnesota probably.
They're my pick as well.
Because of what we talked about and the way it's, I haven't really been in love with Minnesota this year. They went to 2 straight conference finals, so they're always sort of out there, and they have Anthony Edwards, and you're just kind of like, you can't just like act like they're not capable of doing some things, but it just hasn't consistently been there. The way the path is being laid out for them with what's going on with the Lakers, that kind of changes now how you view it. That would mean beating the Lakers, but then having to go beat the Spurs. That would be much more difficult prospect. So conference finals, no, but like any of those teams that are 5 and below to win a round, Minnesota might be the most likely.
If they get the Lakers in the first round, I think their odds go way up because the Lakers just are decimated. I don't take the.
Let me ask, do you think Houston or Minnesota, either of them beat the Lakers without Luka and Austin Reeves? Whoever gets the Lakers.
Both of them, yes. I think fairly easily, to be honest with you. I mean, that team is not a very deep team or a team that checked a lot of boxes. They had great superstar talent. They had a lot of creators, with Reeves. And it's not just Luka, Reeves as well. So to me, the Lakers, and this happens every year, where a team that's a lower seed ends up getting just a great draw. And it might end up being Minnesota, but it might not, because Minnesota might actually draw Denver and then have to do San Antonio, and then Oklahoma City, and then you go to the finals, which would be 4 near impossible rounds, which is the reason it might be tough to pick them. The other team I was thinking, I mean, maybe you could make the case for Houston. Like I said, I don't buy it, but somebody could make the case. The other team for me, Atlanta or Charlotte, could either of these teams just get hot and make a run? They have nothing to lose, which I feel like is nice. You're going into this where your season kind of just came together at the end. You're playing for the future. There's nothing to lose. Could either of those teams just get hot and cause somebody problems? I
almost said Charlotte. That was the only other team I was considering. Now, but think about
path is so hard.
Think about what we're talking about would have to happen.
Yeah.
So if they somehow do get 7 because Philly falls,
yeah,
and they don't win these last 2 games against teams that aren't winning, let's just somehow they lose one of those, and Charlotte gets the 7, and then they win and they get into the 7th spot. Well, they're playing the Celtics in the first round.
That's honestly the hardest path. I would say
I don't think they're going to beat them. So now it is okay. Well, what if they end up 8? Now they get the Pistons, way more intriguing because
they beat them.
The fight and like all that, everybody, that'd be really compelling. The elite defense against like this level offense. By the way, Charlotte's been really good defensively for half a season as well, but their offense is what we talk about all the time against that Pistons defense. And, LaMelo just with his flair and all the talking that would be taking place, that would be fascinating. I still don't think I'd pick them to beat Detroit. So I don't know. That's why I didn't pick them. Like, do I really believe they can win a round? I don't think so, but I think they can make it really, really interesting. And actually even Boston, I think that would be, maybe they win a couple games and it's like super interesting and entertaining, but I don't ultimately think they could beat Boston or Detroit.
I think there's almost a lock that the conference finals will be somebody from the top 4 in both conferences. I just think it's very, very likely that that's how it shakes out. And, maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Let's go to a couple super chats we have here that came in, Legs. One of them from Johnny Keene. He says, hey, Adam and Legs, who do you think will win the first round between the Lakers and Houston? And will home court be important in the series? We kind of answered it. I think Houston pretty easily, and that means home court likely won't matter.
I think Houston will win that series based on the Lakers being banged up. I don't think it'll be as easy maybe as Adam because I still have questions about Houston's offense. So I could see them bogging down and making it harder than it has to be. But I do think they would win that series. I mean, I don't know how you can expect the Lakers to beat Houston or Minnesota without those 2 guys. I just don't, and putting all of this on the plate of a 41-year-old LeBron James. It's not even realistic to expect.
I would enjoy a KD versus LeBron matchup, though. It would be fun to get. We got another one. Max JJ says, today's pod and last night's Legs pod with Bill Simmons are 2 of my favorite lately. You 3 need to do a pod together in person, would work better. Playoffs are looking really good. Hope they measure up. Let Bill know, Legs.
I will.
The people want me in on it. They said they love you 2 together.
Bill has promised me, and I'm going to hold him to this. I'm pretty sure at some point I'll be calling a game in Boston in the postseason. He's offered to take me to dinner, and I'm going to take him up on that.
Oh man, I think that would be pretty nice. That sounds pretty good, man. We got to get Bill. He's a big Jokic guy. We got to get Bill in Denver. We need the Nuggets to make the conference finals.
He does love Jokic, man. We talked a lot about on the pod. We talked a lot about like the top 5, and he didn't even put Jaylen Brown necessarily in that category. I think you got to include him MVP candidates, and sort of broke down all the different metrics around those guys. He does love Jokic.
We got to hit that outro music, Atticus. We got to get conference finals. You're on the call for the Nuggets in Denver. Bill comes out to see Jokic. That's how we do it. Or maybe it's finals.
No.
Celtics.
I got news for you. Conference finals. We are doing the East.
Oh.
So the West falls to our network partners, not us.
Finals.
We'll be the finals potentially if Denver gets there. And look, I might be in Denver for a first or second round game.
Yeah, but Denver, Boston. That's how we get Bill Simmons out to Denver.
Oh,
we get a Denver Boston finals. Legs on the call. There it is. We're doing it at the Fillmore. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. We do have a weekend show with Mark Stein coming up, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And then Legs and I are back on Monday, where we will see the playoff picture, and we'll get to do our first playoff preview. Can't wait for that one. Hit the like button. See you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.